Today, we need to talk about recruiting because the Alabama Crimson Tide, the Oregon Ducks, and the Ohio State Buckeyes are all in play for not only one of the most coveted prospects in the class of 2022, Tyler Booker, four-star tackle out of IMG Academy, but also with news coming that the NCAA dead period is set to end June 1st, we have got to talk about the newest information surrounding JT Tuimoloau, who all three of these programs are also in play for. But before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I want to hear from y'all, so be sure to hop down to the comments and let me know first and foremost, where do you think Tyler Booker ultimately plays his college football? And secondly, where do you think JT Tuimoloau, one of the most coveted prospects throughout the entirety of the recruiting cycle last year for the class of 2021, still uncommitted? Where do you think he ends up playing his college football? I cannot wait to hear what y'all are thinking there. And if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit that bell notification. That way you don't miss any of my uploads because I do constant college football content. And if you enjoy that content, be sure to like and comment down below because that really does go a long ways in helping content creators like myself. But with all that said and out the way, let's first and foremost talk Tyler Booker, the number 41 overall player in the nation, the number 5 tackle in the nation, and the number 8 player out of Florida, which really just goes to show how incredibly stacked the state of Florida is. We've talked about Florida and Texas just stockpiling top 50, top 100 talent, and it really is incredible. 10 guys out of the top 50 for the state of Texas and very close for the state of Florida. Now, Tyler Booker's top 5 consist of Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Ohio State, and Oregon. And that's a very solid top 5. And when he broke them down, you can really see that there are things about each of these institutions that really stand out to him. And because of that, it's very hard to say where is a favorite for him. I do think he had some very interesting things to say about Georgia in particular, but then there are details within all of them that make me excited. So let's just get into it. First and foremost, we'll talk about Alabama. The lead recruiters here, Holloman Wiggins, Doug Marrone. Doug Marrone's a guy we've talked about a lot because he has been making some solid waves with Devin Campbell and a lot of offensive linemen in this cycle. Very excited about that, and especially Josh Connerly Jr., one of my favorite players. But Tyler Booker is being recruited by Wiggins and Doug Marrone, and Tyler Booker talked about the pipeline that has been established for offensive line from IMG to the University of Alabama, citing Evan Neal, who is going to be a first rounder with the Crimson Tide right now, coming back for his season next year. We're all very excited because he is going to lock up a position, but also J.C. Latham, who he is very close with. And apparently J.C. Latham is pitching the Tide to Booker, and he's saying how he thinks he could fit in, and also the rich tradition that the Alabama Crimson Tide offers at that offensive line position is something that is very enticing to Tyler Booker. So we have to watch that, and that pipeline and the familiarity with Neal and Latham are going to be big selling factors, especially J.C. Latham because they're very close. But now we have to talk about Georgia. Matt Luke, Todd Monken on the trail here. And Matt Luke is a guy who's been successful in his capacity to recruit high target offensive linemen. If we're talking 5 stars, guys like Laramie Tunsil, Greg Little, and Amarius Mims. But the interesting thing that Tyler Booker said happened to me about Georgia, or at least the most interesting thing he said. He said that nowhere else in the nation has he built as close of a relationship with, and he doesn't feel like any other college is coming close to that bond that he has with Georgia. It's the school that his family is the closest with and most comfortable with, and he also said it's the school he is the most comfortable with. Georgia has been after Booker since he was a freshman in high school and was recruiting him when he was on the defensive side of the football, and that even ramped up when he moved to the offensive side of the ball. We know what Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs do when it comes to recruiting, so anytime a player is saying that the relationship that they have established is probably the most solid at the University of Georgia and that they feel comfortable there, that is a real thing because Georgia is easily one of the best institutions at recruiting in the nation. That is very high praise. If you're a Dogs fan, that's very high praise. From Florida, he said he thinks that he can come in there and be the dog, like the alpha dog day one, both on the offense, but for the team and offensive line as a whole. Florida is a place where he really likes the direction they're heading, the talent they have, but they have a real big need for offensive line, and he's a guy that can come in there and really help fix that need. Ohio State is a team that we always have to watch for when they are listed in these top schools. They, like Georgia, recruit at the highest level of college football. And with Ohio State comes Greg Studrow, who has been nothing but productive in his ability to recruit five-star talent to offensive line for Ohio State. Studrow is a guy who has been able to successfully get 17 commitments from guys who 24/7 Sports ranks as a 90 or higher on their scale, which is astronomical. He's very high on Ohio State. He always originally thought that he would end up playing his college football in the Big Ten. That kind of changed when he went to IMG. It opened his perspective up to the SEC, and that kind of continued when he talked about Oregon. When he talked about Oregon, he said that he never thought he would fall for Oregon because he never imagined himself playing out west. He always imagined himself inside the Big Ten, but making that move to IMG to Florida really opened his eyes about the possibility of him being able to be successful anywhere. Now, here's what's really intriguing for the Ducks. Not only do they have a phenomenal recruiter after Booker, but also Mario Cristobal benefits from being an offensive line guy himself who has been very successful in his capacity to not only recruit high-level offensive linemen, but then develop them and send them into the draft. Oregon sending an absolute monster to the NFL draft this year, and that just bodes well for them. Look, this is a really intriguing top five because there are very real things that he likes about each institution. And right now, I guess if I had to guess, it's very high praise to say you're the most comfortable with Georgia, that you don't feel like any other institution has developed that relationship that you have with Georgia, and that your family's the most comfortable with Georgia. However, that being said, there is something that gives me as an Alabama fan hope for Booker. When looking at his scheduling of visits, the Alabama Crimson Tide was able to get the last visit on that kind of spree, and that's big for me because that means that they are going to be the last thing on his mind before decision day happens, and that's going to be very big. Let me know what you're thinking with Tyler Booker. This is a guy that every one of these institutions is going to be fighting tooth and nail for. He's scheduled his visits. I'm very excited as an Alabama fan that Alabama is going to be his last visit, but all of these institutions are very much well in play here. This is going to be really fun to watch, and that's really what I came away from my research into this. But now let's talk about JT Tuimoloau. Easily one of the most coveted prospects in the nation, no matter the class and no matter the time period. This is a really talented guy, a guy who looks to be able to come in and make waves very soon. Now, in his process, he has a top five of Washington, Oregon, USC, Ohio State, and Alabama. And it is interesting to note that he was actually at Washington's open spring practice this weekend observing, and he came away very impressed, thinking that everything was very organized. And if you are a Washington Huskies fan, this is what I will say that should make you feel very good, is the fact that Kwiatkowski is not there anymore and you're still very much well in play for such a talented guy. Washington has been very successful at putting guys into the first and second round of the NFL draft, and that right there looks to be a selling factor for Tuimoloau. Jimmy Lake is a guy that we need to realize that these recruits have a lot of faith in, and we really need to watch. I'm very interested to see how the defense is able to succeed now that Coach K's not there, because there's always kind of been this question, was the defensive scheme more Coach K? Was it more Jimmy Lake? And now we get the answer to that question with Coach K being at Texas and Jimmy Lake at Washington. Really excited to see that. Oregon is a team where he will undoubtedly be visiting, and his dad said that once this dead period opens up at June, they might even take their visits back to back. After one place, they go to another and another and another. This is going to be a really intriguing process because he's not going to sign a letter of intent. He's actually going to sign scholarship papers, which a letter of intent would bind him to the university. Scholarship papers flips that, binds the university to him. I think that's really awesome. I'm actually really wondering, with things opening up more within the NCAA and all of these legislative acts that the NCAA is trying to get through, how is that going to kind of fit into the future of recruiting? But it's very cool that I get to witness this and kind of think about this moving forward, because it is something that is going to be on my mind for quite some time. Now, the intriguing thing about this is they are going to hastily take their time with this decision. And what do I mean? Well, they want to make the right decision. They've been very patient thus far, and I don't expect that to not continue. They're a very thoughtful family from everything I can gather, and JT Tuimoloau is one of the most coveted prospects in the nation, not only for his athletic ability, but also because he seems like he's got a great head on his shoulders. It is important to note that both Oregon and Washington have also offered him basketball scholarships because he does play basketball, and that's what he's doing right now. The family wants him to finish up the basketball season, graduate, and then take these visits, which could come back to back to back to back, as I said. But they're going to swiftly take their time with this. And like I said, they're going to be patient, but they don't have a whole lot of time to be too patient. They have no doubt been thinking about this process the entire time. And it has been thought that Ohio State is the favorite, because Ohio State has been phenomenal at developing defensive end and defensive linemen, but so has the University of Alabama. They have a very lively battle about defensive players in the NFL, and Ohio State has long thought to be the favorite here. Ohio State was crystal balled at one point to be 100%, I believe, for JT Tuimoloau, but Alabama really ramped it up and is really closed ground. Washington, Oregon, and USC are all still in this, but if I had to guess, the three teams that you have to feel the best about, in my estimation, which could easily be wrong, is Ohio State, Alabama, and Washington, given his familiarity with Washington, very high coming out of the practice, thinking that it looked very organized, kind of having some faith in what Jimmy Lake is doing. Ohio State being thought to be the favorite for an extensive period of time, very high on the tradition there, and he wants to be on campus, wants to get on campus, show his family. He has been to Alabama, he's been to Tuscaloosa. When he was offered as a sophomore, there was a clip of him that went viral, but he wants to get his family at campus into Tuscaloosa. Now, both Oregon and USC, very capable recruiting institutions. Cristobal at Oregon has done a phenomenal job getting guys like Kayvon Thibodeau, Justin Flo, and Noah Sewell. And USC, last cycle, closing in on the number one player in the nation, Corey Foreman, must certainly not be ignored. But if I had to guess in this one, it probably comes down to Alabama, Ohio State, or Washington, because Ohio State, like I said, long time been the favorite. Alabama, the team that really closed the gap and is making things very interesting. He really wants to get his family at both Tuscaloosa and Columbus. So I cannot wait to see where this goes. He's someone who will enroll in August, and he's a guy who's so talented, he looks to make waves instantly. I can't wait to hear what y'all are thinking. Be sure to hop down to those comments and let me know. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe. That's it. See ya.